Steven Spielberg is back in World War II, but this time he's not storming the beaches of Normandy. No, he's headed up in the air with the Masters of the Air. What is going on, everybody? My name is Pat. I'm the voice behind 99% of what you'll see and hear on this channel. But today we are doing a spoiler-free review of the new Apple TV Plus miniseries, The Masters of the Air. This is based on a book written by a guy named Harry Crosby, who was a navigator during World War II who helped fighter pilots just go on missions. But it's really necessarily not about him. It's more about his crew. They were called the 100. They were stationed over in England, and all the trials and tribulations that they dealt with, being so young, being so far from home, and just trying to stay alive during the deadliest war ever. There's not really much of a plot that you don't already know because it's based in reality, and even though it happened 85 years ago, I think we all know at this point that the good news is, folks, we won. We won. Unless you're German, Japanese, or Italian, which if you are, yeah, you didn't win, but hey, I'm American, so, we won. And this is about American fighter pilots as well. They're stationed all over, but, they finally get together in England and they form a tight bond because they're risking life and limb every single day fighting for their country and fighting the Gestapo. But look, let's actually get into the review. As I said, not much of a plot that you probably don't already know, but is it any good? The short answer is, yeah, it's incredible. And that wasn't really a doubt, considering that this was made by not only Steven Spielberg, but by Tom Hanks. Two guys that were in Saving Private Ryan. Steven Spielberg creates Saving Private Ryan. Tom Hanks stars in it. But that, up into, I would say this point, is the most accurate depiction of World War II. And I'm not going on a guy that lived it, thankfully. I'm going on the reaction of World War II vets having seen the Normandy beach scene, and a lot of them not being able to deal with it because it just brought back PTSD memories. That's how accurate Steven Spielberg's portrayal of World War II was. So you put him from the beaches of Normandy now into the sky, and I didn't think that he would miss with this one, and he certainly did not. Now, this is really run, as I said, from a guy named Harry Crosby's perspective. He's played by a guy named Anthony Boyle that you might not necessarily know his name, but you might recognize if you watch the show The Umbrella Academy on Netflix. And really, this show is a who's who of guys that you might recognize, but you don't necessarily know their name. It stars Austin Butler, who is probably the most famous of the group. He was in Elvis. He portrayed Elvis. He was nominated for Elvis. But it also has Caleb Turner, who it was recently in Boys in the Boat. He's in a great movie called Green Room, which everybody should check out. But his stock is rising. And also Barry Keoghan, who is one of my favorite young actors. He was recently in Saltburn, and his stock is also rising as well. So I think that this show stars a lot of guys that you'll go, I don't know them now, but in a couple years, maybe even this year, they will become household names. They will be guys that are streamlining major motion pictures and have become household names around the world. So both Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks did not skimp with the cast. But what I love about this series so much is that they also didn't necessarily leave it like, we're just going to focus on the stars, and just because they're stars, they're going to survive. I'm not going to tell you who lives and who dies, but it was a very accurate representation, I felt like, of the time, because you'll sit there and see a guy, and just because he's a household name maybe, or he's a big actor, or he's a recognizable actor, you think, oh, he's going to survive, because that's just how movies and TVs do things. And really the first show that bucked that trend, I would say, was probably Game of Thrones most recently with Ned Stark. Spoiler alert there. But he was a guy that you recognize, big time actor, and then he's done in season 1. And this had that as well, where I think early on you're not going to be able to get too attached to most of the characters because you just don't know if they're going to live or die. I really appreciate that. I really like that. I thought that was awesome. But also what I loved about this series so much is it's from a bunch of different perspectives. So you go through Harry Crosby, the navigator, and his perspective of being up in the plane, trying to navigate through missions, trying to get them to where they need to go. Also, you go to the pilots, the guys who are actually, flying the plane. Then you go to the guys who are dropping the bombs. Then you go to the guys that are manning the guns. Then you go to, the guys on the ground who are fixing the plane. They cover it all in this series. At some point, if there is an area of flying a plane or dealing with people that are flying in planes, they have covered it in this show, and they've done it in a really, really well done way. This also, I will say, is brutal. It is a brutal show. I mean, if you're not for the faint at heart, I wouldn't necessarily watch it. It's not gory necessarily, but it's war, and they don't hide that. They don't sugarcoat it. There are some jarring scenes, I would say, of like, oh, didn't really need to see that, but that's war, and they don't hide from it. They don't hide from how dangerous it was being up in these planes for these guys, but also they really dive into the mental aspect of, imagine it, you're 21, 22 years old, right? And now you're from North Dakota or Wyoming. Well, now you're in England, and you're with a group of guys, and you're flying around, but you don't know if they are going to die, and you see their plane go down, but you don't know what happened to them. And we're in the day and age of instant communication. You tweet, you Instagram, you text, you FaceTime, all that. But back then, it's like you see your buddy's plane go down, you don't know what happened to him. You hope that you saw a parachute, but even then, might be behind enemy lines. They cover all of that. They also do a really good job of covering POWs as well. What happens when a fighter pilot does end up parachuting out, but unfortunately, he parachutes out in enemy territory and he gets taken to a POW camp, dealing with that mental angle as well of like, am I going to survive? Do I know anybody here? So they really did a good job of, in every episode, touching a little bit more on what it was like for a lot of these people in World War II that had to fight for, I think what was right. I think 99% of people out there would say it's what was right. But they don't hide from what happened in Nazi Germany. As I talked about with those POW camps, they dive into what was going on with the Gestapo and with, unfortunately, the Auschwitz and camps and the extermination of 6 million Jews. And it's tough, but to see the actors and they portray the fact that they don't know what's going on, and when it hits them and when they realize that what they're looking at is an extermination camp, it's eye-opening because we know it, this is history, but it brings you back to, what was it like for those guys that just stumble upon an extermination camp that was evacuated because at that point Germany starts to lose the war and they start to retreat. So they did a really good job of bringing all angles of this show to the forefront, and I feel like showing you a new perspective that you probably knew but didn't necessarily think of in a long, long time. Folks, this legitimately might be the best thing that Apple TV has ever done. I was sad when it was over, and I finished this probably a week ago, and I've thought about it every single day. Now, I don't necessarily want a sequel to it because I don't want World War III, but it was that well done, and I think that's a testament to the creators of the show, the directors, the actors. The only negative thing I can honestly say about this show is I thought Austin Butler was bad in it, and mainly because I couldn't get over the fact that he's playing Elvis as a World War II fighter pilot. He can't knock the accent off. He's got this, Joe Cool act, of like, even in the toughest times, he's sitting there acting as if he's James Dean, and to me it was bad. It was rough. I couldn't get over that aspect. I really did feel like I was watching Elvis Presley in a World War II movie, which ironically he did a lot of. But other than that, the acting was incredible. The portrayals of the true stories, and then that's the other interesting part that I'll finish up with is all of the characters you see are based on real people, and at the end you get an update of what happened to these guys, and I think it brought some back once again of like, no, these weren't made up, characters for a TV show about a serious topic and a true story. No, these were actually based in reality, and they don't skimp on, even the angle of like what it was like being married, but you're far away from your wife and there's a lot of temptation out there and you don't know if you're going to die tomorrow. So, Yeah, you got to live once, right? It's folks, when this hits Apple, I'm recording this on a Wednesday. When this hits Apple on Friday, watch it. And watch it every single week afterwards, because Apple does the weekly episode drops. This is worth the price of Apple. And as I said, I really do believe this is the best thing that they have ever done. And I'm a big history buff, but we've seen movies before try to tackle the World War II fighter pilot, whether it be Red Tails, whether it be it was a James Franco movie, Flyboys. And they were good, but they weren't like this. This takes it to a whole other level. So if you're somebody that loves Saving Private Ryan or was just blown away by that, and if you're a history buff, you're going to absolutely love this show. I can't recommend it enough. The Masters of the Air, for me, I mean, and it's early, but it's going to be tough to top this in terms of television shows in 2024. Now is the part of the video where I ask you guys, please subscribe to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you thought I sucked, if you thought anything sucks, you can smash thumbs down. That's your right, okay? Those World War II guys, they fought for that right. So I'm not going to stand in their way, right? I'm a soy boy. They're vets, so you can smash the thumbs down. But definitely check out this show once it hits Apple.